My Industry Consulting Group, MCG.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a powerhouse industry that's absolutely booming, maybe in a place you wouldn't expect. We're going to get into Iran's massive construction sector and its main event, Iran CONFAIR 2025, to really see what's fueling all this growth.
So, let me just start by asking you a question. When you think about big industries in the Middle East, yeah, oil is probably the first thing that pops into your head. But could you tell me where one of the region's largest non-oil industries is not just surviving, but actually thriving?
Well, the answer is Iran's construction sector. Seriously, it is an absolute engine for the country's GDP, for employment, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Okay, first up, Iran's building boom. To get this, we first have to understand the sheer size and, really, the toughness of this market.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with this number, 85 million. That's the population. And that creates this huge non-stop demand for new homes, for offices, for infrastructure. This internal engine is really the foundation for the entire industry. And you know, when you have that kind of massive domestic demand, it creates this incredible market resilience. The sector doesn't just get through economic ups and downs. A lot of the time, it actually thrives because of them. It's become this essential non-oil industry that helps strengthen the whole economy.
So, let's move on to Section 2, the market's 4 pillars. Because this resilience, it's not some happy accident. Nope, it's built on 4 solid drivers of growth.
First, you've got this explosive urban expansion. Think about huge cities like Tehran, Mashhad, and Isfahan. They're just constantly growing. And that creates a relentless, unending demand for new housing. This is probably the most obvious driver you can see right on the ground.
The second pillar is the incredible need for infrastructure. And we're talking about the absolute fundamentals of a modern economy here. You know, roads, bridges, industrial parks, and crucial energy facilities. This isn't just about building new apartment blocks. It's about connecting the entire country and powering its future.
Now, the third pillar. This one's a massive strategic advantage, raw material independence. Iran is one of the world's top producers of the essentials, like cement and steel. What that means is it has a competitive, homegrown supply chain ready to fuel its own building boom without having to rely on imports.
And that brings us to our fourth and final pillar, which is all about looking outward. I mean, just look at a map. Geographically, Iran is perfectly placed to become a supplier and a service hub for its neighbors all across the Middle East and Central Asia. This is what can turn a strong domestic industry into a really powerful export engine.
Okay, Section 3. So with all that context, let's actually step inside CONFAIR 2025. This is the spot, this is the place where the entire market comes together.
For 2025, the event is really zeroing in on 4 themes that kind of give us a roadmap to the industry's future. First, there's a huge push for sustainability, with green materials and technologies. Then, you've got smart tech being baked into urban development. After that, there's a big focus on new financing models, because somebody's got to pay for these huge projects. And finally, innovation in design and engineering to try and balance cost with modern aesthetics. You put them all together, and you get a picture of a really forward-looking market.
All right, on to Section 4, beyond the exhibition floor. See, an event like this is so much more than just a trade show. You have to think of it like a strategic barometer for the entire industry.
The real gold here is the intelligence you can gather. By just watching the trends, seeing who the players are at CONFAIR, a decision maker can get critical insights on, well, everything. From supply chains and how to enter the market, to figuring out investment risks and spotting that next huge infrastructure opportunity.
So that leads us to our final section. Section 5, a strategic entry point. It's one thing to have all these insights, but how do you actually turn them into action? Well, let's look at an expert take from the My Industry Consulting Group.
Their whole analysis really comes down to this one simple idea: first mover advantage. They argue that in a market of 85 million people, getting involved early, whether that's through partnerships, investment, or just building relationships, that is the absolute key to unlocking the biggest opportunities before everyone else shows up.
And to help bridge that gap for international businesses, they actually help make this happen directly. They offer services that range from providing curated lists of exhibitors in English all the way to offering on-site representation for companies that can't be there in person.
And that really brings us to our final thought. As we've seen, the story of Iran's construction sector is ultimately a story of resilience. And it's a resilience fueled by incredibly deep domestic and regional demand. It leaves us with a much bigger question to think about. For any global business looking at new frontiers, what does resilience in an emerging market really truly look like? This market, well, it provides one very compelling answer.